I'm your host, Rob Olson, Chief Revenue Officer of Technology Source. Technology Source is a solution partner that builds unique, best-in-breed solutions for our trusted advisors and their clients. By leveraging a network of over 500 providers in managed IT, cybersecurity, telecom, mobility, AI, and analytics, we design solutions tailored to reduce operational expenses, improve efficiencies, and transform the customer experience. Each month for the last 5 years, Technology Source has hosted a virtual roundtable webinar. During the webinar, we highlight one of our carefully curated and highly unique solutions that our trusted advisors and their clients have found to be extremely valuable. This month is no different, as we will be discussing the benefits of the Aeris 4G Fixed Wireless Internet Access solution in some detail. So with that, I'll introduce Aeris Communications. Aeris Communications is the global leader in mobility solutions with a proven history of helping many of the world's largest companies create value through connected technologies. Aeris's unique FWA solution includes multi-carrier eSIM, global coverage in 190 countries, and allows the enterprise to manage cybersecurity policy to the device edge. And you'll see along the bottom some very impressive credentials. Over 90 million devices worldwide, operating in 180 countries. There's 29 million connected vehicles using Aeris today. They handle over 6 million messages per day. They have 30 global MNO partnerships, 7,000 customers worldwide, and 41 million eSIMs. You guys have been busy. Lots going on. With that, let's introduce our amazing panel of experts, starting with Robert Holly, the VP of Global Sales. Robert, I know you're traveling. What part of the country are you in today?
I'm in Chicago today, so
Ah,
home sweet home, right?
oh
Well,
yeah,
it used to be
exactly.
home sweet home anyway, for both of us.
Yeah. We're both expatriates. We're now in Arizona, left Chicago, got smart, headed towards the sunshine and the warm weather. Marcus is our Director of Channel Sales. Marcus, good to see you. And where are you joining us from today?
Southern California, I am in Lake Arrowhead under about a half a foot of snow.
Oh, wow. You don't think Southern California and snow, but it does exist. Lake Arrowhead,
Sure
Big
does.
Bear for sure. Great. I'm glad you're here to join us. Eric Lidstrom, Senior Solutions Architect. Eric, glad to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, let's head over to some questions for our panel. I know we've got an hour together and we've got a lot of information we want to get through. Let's start with simplifying complex deployments. So enterprises often struggle with managing multiple carriers and devices. How does Aeris's multi-carrier eSIM and unified platform reduce operational complexity and simplify global deployments?
So can you see my screen, Rob?
We can.
Fantastic. All right. So great question. Let me give you a real world scenario. Okay. So let's say you're a retailer opening up at about 200 stores this year across 30 different states, right? So if we think about it with traditional connectivity, you're dealing with different ISPs in every market, different install timelines, different SLAs, different billing systems. So, the IT team is managing basically a patchwork of networks, if you will. Now multiply that across multiple carriers, right? And across multiple providers for cellular. You've got AT&T SIMs in some locations, T-Mobile in others, Verizon where you can get it, right? And nobody has a single view on what's happening. So one of the cool things about the Aeris IoT Watchtower and Merge Wi-Fi solution is the fact that our solution eliminates that entire mess. One SIM managed from one platform, one dashboard, one bill, one support call, one throat to choke. So you're not trying to figure out, what's going on with carrier A versus carrier B. You've got one platform that really makes every decision relevant in real time. On top of that, you're looking at deployment times, which are far less than what you would look at with traditional fiber, SD-WAN overlays, or a multitude of overlays as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it's our experience has been exactly that. Very simple to deploy, much easier than having to juggle multiple providers in order to meet timelines. And quite honestly, the Lex and the cable codes when it comes to meeting timelines and deadlines have not been great. So having Aeris in our portfolio has been a big help. Does anybody else want to add to what Robert had to say?
I think that's perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Security, big topic. Security is no longer an afterthought. Can you explain how Aeris' zero trust security, powered by IoT Watchtower, protects FWA deployments and helps enterprises meet compliance requirements?
Yeah. So, Rob, this is where I get fired up, right? It's a
What
blind
do you
spot.
find out about
Blind spot nobody's talking about at all, right? Every enterprise has invested heavily in firewalls, SD-WAN, SASE,
Yes.
all the great things that handle your enterprise, if you will. But here's a problem. Those tools see no traffic that flows past the branch. The moment the device connects over cellular, your security cameras, your POS terminals, your FWA backup, your IoT sensors, your firewall has zero visibility. It can't see it. It doesn't know it exists. So think about that. If you've got a vending machine in a 7-Eleven, it can't see what's going on that cellular device, right? So that's the gap that Aeris IoT Watchtower closes, right? Zero trust security is at the cellular edge. We see every SIM, we see every device, every connection at the network layer. Anomaly detection, if a camera that normally has like 50 meg, right, per day suddenly starts pushing 5 gig, we flag it, right? Policy control. If you set rules that, for what each device type should be doing or what it's allowed to do, we enforce it before the traffic ever hits the public internet. So if you think about extending those SASE policies or those enterprise policies beyond the branch and all the way down into that POS device, right? So we think about it from a compliance standpoint, right? And this matters for retail, for healthcare, anyone handling PCI or high-tech data, right? IoT Watchtower gives you an audit and an audit trail at that SIM level. So you can prove what's connected, what it did, what's authorized. If you're trying to get it from, trying to get that from your cable provider down to the IoT device, good luck, right? So I think what I'd like to do, though, instead of talking about it for the next 5 or 10 minutes, right? And we can debate security policies and SASE versus SD-WAN. As you know, my background is SASE and SD-WAN for the last 10 years. So that's been exciting. I think this is a better time to actually kind of show the dashboard and show the solution itself. Maybe do a quick 5 or 10 minute demo, Eric. We can kind of spend 10 minutes kind of walking through what the tool can do. Before that, if there's any questions that anybody has, I'm happy to answer those. No.
No questions in the chat, sir.
Eric, I'm going to pass it on to you, boss.
If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to enter your questions in the chat and we will answer them for you.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Right
Gotcha.
now.
We can see you.
Okay. So basically just starting out with, this is the landing portal. So anytime that you actually log into Aeris' airport, this is what you see. I won't go into specifics as far as this, but basically what you get to see is number of devices provisioned, number billed, taking a look at your 12-month run rate from a cost perspective, and then taking a 30-day snapshot of your usage. In other words, this would be questionable, this would be questionable, and this would be questionable. Why is it actually, why are these 3 days increase? And that's, again, what Robert was kind of going through. But what I will do is I will take this to the security portal. And it's really important to keep in mind, too, that there is no firmware or applets or anything you need to load on your hardware. You don't need to have a subscription to anything on the back end. We actually able to go ahead and pull all of this data just because we have our own data core and we can actually see all that traffic. All right, so this is the this is the Aeris demo portal. As you can see, we don't have a whole lot of malicious going on. However, we do have a number of suspicious endpoints. We do have devices that we're scanning some new addresses, some new ports, and then of course you've got SIM misuse. And what that really means is the SIM was pulled out of device A, put into device B. We catalog that as a SIM misuse or a SIM, something you want to go ahead and take a look at. But again, you can see we have some suspicious traffic happening a couple of times. And then, of course, we have anomalous. But that could be hey, why are you going to 127 dot or 27.0.0 local loop? If you do have any internal IPs, so 192s, 172s, or 10s, it's going to show up here. Not that it's a bad thing, just it's actually calling that out for you to actually make sure that traffic is valid, and it should be doing what it's doing. All right, so we come down here, you can actually see total data transmitted, and this is over a 90-day period. So yes, right away, I would actually say, what's going on there? Why? What? Oh boy, what took place there? As you take a look at your average data per transaction, your run rate kind of screams at why did these actually increase? And we can actually go in and specifically get to it and see what the devices did and basically take any action necessary. Total DNS, one of the more hidden causes of issues could be a captured DNS server or a bad actor. Basically, what we want to see is if we have this looks pretty average, the connectivity profile looks good. But if you had like a DNS that was a bad actor, or you're using an unsecured DNS, like 1 squared for Cloudflare, or 8 squared or 8844 for Google DNS, these are public DNS points. We supply you private DNS, but this particular panel lets you know, hey, you might want to check into something. And then we get over to destination endpoints. So you can see typically these days, oh, you know what? Look at that. That's holiday. I wonder why. People were gone probably. People were using it up until the 19th, kind of went slow. And then when the first of the year started, you can actually see some more traffic is actually taking place. All right. And I'm trying to do this in 5 minutes, so I apologize if I'm skipping over stuff.
Take 10, Eric. Take 10, right? Take 10.
Okay, you got it.
Let's get a little detailed in here so they can actually see the benefit of the solution.
Sure. So let's go ahead and just take a look at suspicious. Why is it suspicious? Hey, look at that. You are using an unsecured DNS server, which again, I use Google on a lot of things, but at the same time, it's not privatized. It is potentially open to the public. Somebody's trying to go ahead and get in, they can actually see that. We suggest you use our private DNS, but that's essentially what this is calling out, is why are you using a publicly facing DNS server when we can actually go ahead and do it, we can do it directly. Now let's kick back here. And let's go back to the security portion. Let's look at the dashboard. All right, so let's take a look at anomalous. What does that mean? Well, let's see. So we come in here and you can actually see, so again, nothing really major. It's just registered as a new IP. So if you have a run rate, let's say for the last 3 or 4 years, you've been going to these sites and these sites only. You've been using this DNS server and this DNS server only, your network time server. Again, what you basically get here is, okay, why are these new IPs coming into my network? What's going on? Phone device traffic, Android clients. If you've got a device out there that isn't supposed to be communicating with any of these endpoints, and of course, your data consumption is growing, this is where you're going to go ahead and find that. And what we did, as you can see, is we killed those connections because we didn't want them to be utilized without prior auth. Again, this is our internal demo account, so it's going to be a little goofy around the border. Inventory and control. This is basically just calling out your SIM swap. Network security. We are going ahead and using, again, unsecured DNS. We also have some security here where you're actually broadcasting your connection over port 80, unsecured. We recommend, at least doing an SSL or encapsulating your traffic when it traverses the network to go ahead and prevent any potential issues. Data protection, again, it's a demo account, so a lot of these users are going to places just basically looking for information. Typically, high would actually indicate in a consumer account or business account, you've got something going on. You might want to go ahead and take a peek at it. And then, of course, we have down here all of our devices. So where are they located? I've got 10 devices in the United States. I got 4 in the United Kingdom, and I have 1 in Ireland. Let me show you a really cool thing there. So we can actually go to here and let's take a look at where your devices are going. And I hate to use the term, but it's from a geek standpoint, this is extremely sexy. So what we can see is you got 10 devices, they've communicated this amount, 4 devices communicated this amount, and in Ireland, they've communicated this amount. So you can see your devices are located in Ireland and the UK. But let's find out where your devices are actually going. So mostly the United States. We can see, okay, we've got some. So the UK, we have some in the Netherlands. And again, this is basically telling you where these devices are going, what country they were communicating with. If you start seeing Russian Federation, Pakistan, North Korea, you know you got a problem. And really what this does is this actually protects your device. It's actually out in the field that could potentially be monkeyed with or screwed with in some way, shape, or form. They could basically plug in and do a 232 input, use an Ethernet port, whatever, and start going to places that you shouldn't be. And believe it or not, we see that a lot. Think Tanzania, think South Africa, that type of thing.
Uzbekistan.
There you go. That's a great one, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
We go to the event log, and this is basically going to go ahead and give you kind of a snapshot what's going on with your devices. So suspicious endpoints, again, we confirmed that. You're going to 8 squared Google. Device groups. So we've created a group here, and what we have the ability to do is we can create device groups. So let's say you have 1,000 devices. We can create groups for devices that are going to be used for business purposes, devices that are going to be designed for logistics, devices that are actually going to go to the to the C level. And what we can actually do is we can specifically decide what these devices can do and what they cannot do. So if it's the executive level, we pretty much open the door. If it's going to be field level, we give them certain capabilities. If it's going to be end user level, we don't let them do anything. But we can actually go ahead and set those policies and decide where they can go, what they can do when they're there, what ports, what protocols can actually be utilized. As a matter of fact, I'm going to jump back over to this. And I'm just going to show you right away because it's kind of easy to see. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to pick a sim here. I'm going to pick that one right there. Oh, I got click happy. Hold on. Got to go one more. Go back.
So Eric, how intuitive is the dashboard from a tracking perspective? Do you need a PhD to be able to kind of go through this, or can a sales guy do it right at the end of the day?
Actually, we've got a bunch of sales guys that do it on a daily basis. It is relatively simple once you've actually been given, good instruction on where to find things. You pretty much can go ahead and run, without training wheels after that. But what I want to show is this. So we have a pie, and it looks like it's in, it's probably going to be in the UK, probably at our office in the UK. Let's confirm. Come on, Google. Look at that. Hammersmith Road, downtown London. Okay. So we go back here. We can see this is a pie. We can see that it's in a registered session. We can see it's in a data session. I could ping it here, except we block ICMP being received. So if I hit that, it wouldn't work. I can do a mobile terminated SMS directly from here. But what I wanted to show you was analyze device. And I don't know who said that on the front end, but if you ask your carrier, whether it's an MNO, whether it's an MVNO, MVNOE like us, if you ask them, hey, I need to know all of the endpoints that my device went to, the MNO is going to come back and say, absolutely not. We don't share that information. That's something called CPNI, Customer Proprietary Network Information. If you want to get that information from us, even though it's a corporate account and you're paying the bill, they need to have some reason for. So insurance has to get involved. Police have to get involved to sequester that information. All right. So basically what we can see here is this is a snapshot of a day. Where did this device go? So obviously Google DNS, interesting. This is the natted Google DNS that we use. We can see DNS here. We see all of the daily use, looks pretty good. We're only looking at a day. Let's take a look at the entire month. All right, so we take a look at the month and you kind of go, well, this is pretty run rate. What the hell happened here? And what the hell happened there? So what you can do is we can come down here and we can see over the last 17 days, this device has actually gone to 731 sites. We go to 100, we can kind of take a look at all the places that it's gone. But what's more important, oh, that didn't work. Let's go to IP flows. So 700 so locations this device has actually gone to. Over the last 17 days, it has had 158 individual communication or interfaces with the carrier network. And what you can see is that showing up. There we go. What we can see is we can see where the device went, when it started, when it ended, the source IP, the source port. If the FQDN is not being reported, it looks like AWS to me. But we can see the destination IP, the destination port, what protocol was actually utilized, how much from and how much to. Now, what's interesting is you can see 158 individual communications with the network, even though your device has only done 731. What that is you're reaching out for network time. It's checking the network for any time change. It's always checking the network to make sure that your attributes for your device hasn't changed. In other words, hey, I had LTE and I don't want LTE and I'm going to do this or that. You can actually go ahead and see that all here. But what's also nice is you can actually see your DNS queries, average. Yep, pretty much glacial. You got a little bump here, a little bump there. But again, this is a healthy account because it's not going off the reservation. Destination endpoints, how many places has it gone to? So we can see 731 times it's gone to this particular location. Not sure why FQDN. You know what? I need to reboot my computer probably. What we can see is, again, port, how many times it communicated. So 19,316 individual communications. And that could be actually from the tower to the device or from the device to the tower. And that's also going to go ahead and capture all of your user plane, all of your data plane, and control plane traffic as well. So you can see everything that's actually taking place. Let's get back out of that. How am I on time, Robert?
You're fine.
Okay.
Good.
We'll go back into security one more time. Get into the dashboard.
So, having worked with every provider, T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, cybersecurity, this has been the blind spot on all the mobility devices that we've worked with in the past. And for us, this is a game-changing application that you've built. Because it really allows our customers to manage mobility and the security of their mobile devices, unlike anyone or anything in the past. So I think it's a complete breakthrough and it's amazing, and we love recommending it to our clients.
Yeah, I think one of the big things you'll see there, Rob, is there's a difference between when we have customers talk about mobile devices and IoT devices, because a lot of times when they hear the word mobile, they think, okay, I have MDM, I have my policies are set, my extension policies are set. IoT devices don't operate in that same manner as we all know, right? So IoT devices kind of live outside the domain of MDM or firewall or VPNs, et cetera. So it really is, in that aspect of it, a changer that a lot of carriers are actually moving to. So you have Verizon that has MODA. You have AT&T, which has a solution called AVPN. You have T-Mobile, which has their SASE on SIM solution offered by Versa. Each one of these, they do provide a level of security. However, and we'll kind of talk about this in a little bit, don't want to get away from the demo, but the difference is the fact that they're single threaded to the single MNO. So unlike when you have MPLS in the old days, or even SD-WAN, where you have peering agreements that allow you to look back and forth between networks and say, oh, okay, a consumer in my traffic, has an ingress and egress here and stops. It doesn't happen in a carrier network. So again, that's one of the major differences when you look at any MVNO, MVNE, MNO comparison to what Merge Wi-Fi and Aeris are providing together, is that ability to have cross-carrier visibility and cross-carrier policy and profile enforcement. Nobody else in the globe does that. Nobody else has the switching technology that Merge Wi-Fi has within its solution and its hardware and within its gateways. And no other company in the world has the ability on a multi-network platform to enforce those policies, whether you're in Japan on Singtel, or whether you're or Singapore on Singtel, or Australia with Telstra, or on AT&T in the US. That's really the magic of the numbers. And Eric, I didn't want to overspeak you there, but play that back in, because I mean, again, that's where our customers are seeing value today, right? In a combined setting, at least in my opinion, from what I'm seeing on the street.
No, agreed.
Yeah, and I completely agree. The other thing that we are in a unique position in the comparison for most MVNOs is we're not just buying a bucket of data, a bucket of voice, bucket of text, and then actually doling it out for a percentage, utilizing that carrier's SIM. We are resident in the cores of over 35 carriers worldwide. So all of this traffic, no matter where it is, no matter what it's doing, and to Robert's point, it doesn't matter what carrier you're on, all of that traffic is going to go ahead and come to us. You set up a policy. If they're trying to go someplace bad, we just drop that packet and that device never goes there. And we let that stay open. If they try again, we stop it. They try again, we stop it. There is no software. There is no panel. There's nothing you need to do to your end, your devices out in the field, because we can capture it by having our own gateway, having our own S&P footprint, and again, 35 carriers globally. It's a game changer, essentially. But yeah, should I go on?
And Eric, real quick, we had a question from Rick.
Yeah.
Can I set Watchtower to only allow connections to a specific IP or a group of specific IPs and automatically block IPs from connecting to the network? So I don't know if you want to show that real quick, or just quick high-level answer.
Yes, we can. Here, let's just take a look at, so I'm not necessarily sure, so I'm going to be flying without a net here, but Ethan, Sanity, AT&T. Let's take a look at that policy. So what do we want to know? Ethan, Sanity, AT&T. Allow list certain places so they can go to Google Docs, Google Drive, and use the an ICMP protocol. Enforcement rule allow list, again, where it can go, it's only allowed to go there. IP chicken, yes. Do they want to have access to IP chicken for whatever reason? Sure. But we've actually created a number of blocked. So you can take a device. I can take an Android device, and it's going to be communicating not just with the the internet and wherever you happen to be going, but that Android device itself is going to go ahead and have stuff that's going on in the background. It's going to communicate with Google. It's going to be checking up for software. It's going to be checking up for firmware. It's looking to go ahead and refresh its network stats. If you have a device that's actually out there and it's only supposed to be moving a meg, you're going to go ahead and go over that simply because Android tends to go ahead and communicate a lot. U-blocks, which is no longer in the business anymore, but U-blocks used to have your device could be connected and U-blocks would actually see that and it would reach out and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Do you need any updates? Problem with that was it was happening so often that 1 meg suddenly became 3 megs. And we never would have known that U-blocks was doing that if we didn't have a robust tool like this to analyze it. But again, we can actually see the protection policy block traffic, the allowed traffic, and of course the applications that are allowed. And of course we have one device or one profile and 2 devices in that profile. And of course, protection policies, you can do a number of things. You can actually go ahead and group it by application. The other thing to keep in mind too is, so let's say you're using AWS, Google Cloud, GCP services, or Azure. Or let's say you want to go to Netflix. Yes, you want your device to be able to go to Netflix. The number of AWS and Azure and Netflix IPs are massive. So you have the ability in some groups, you would actually have to go ahead and find each one of those individual IP addresses and block it specifically. You have the ability here to go ahead and block Netflix.com. Nothing. Doesn't matter where it is. That endpoint FQDN is going to be blocked. And you can do that. I can turn it on. I can turn it off. in seconds through the portal. Event log, loud traffic, security policies. We got that. Any questions? I guess that would be a great question.
No questions now, sir.
All right. Well, why don't we go back to the Q&A there, Eric? I think that's really good. And, again, if anybody wants a deeper dive into what the tool set can do, Rob, I'm sure they can work with anybody on your team to get a much deeper dive into the tool set itself.
Absolutely. At the end of the presentation, we'll share an email. You can reach out to us directly and arrange time with us and Aeris. So I want to talk a little bit about FWA as primary connectivity. So FWA, Fixed Wireless Access, is often seen as a backup solution. What innovations allow Aeris FWA to serve as both a primary and backup enterprise network connection?
Yeah, this this is the perception we're changing every single day, right? 2 years ago, FWA was really a backup play, right? Just put in a cellular gateway in the closet, hope it works when the fiber goes down, right? Problem is that those backup links failed about 40% of the time when you actually needed them, right? It's not backup, it's more of a coin flip, if you will, right? So what's kind of changed, right? First of all, the connectivity, right? So LTE and 5G, the performance is caught up, right? And when we operate in a 5G setting. We're delivering consistent speeds that kind of match or exceed what businesses are getting from cable today, right? With lower latency in many markets. Second, we kind of talked about it in the demo a few minutes ago, but multi-carrier. You're not dependent upon just one tower or one carrier anymore, right? It's one platform with merge Wi-Fi gateway switches, the carriers in seconds, right? Not minutes, not after a reboot, seconds. So think about that. The ability that I'm out there searching for the best network. It has that ability to natively do that, right? And third is
think dual SIM or triple SIM or whatever, without I've got to go ahead and take SIM 1. I'm going to move to SIM 2. Let's take a couple of minutes, get over to SIM 2, and then get that connection. This happens in the background without any of that delay. Sorry, Robert.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric, for chiming in there. And third, really, what we've kind of talked about, right? It is the the management and the security, right? So with Aeris IoT Watchtower and our IoTA platform, right? You have the same visibility and control over your FWA connection that you'd expect from a managed fiber connection, right? Actually, you have a little bit more because fiber providers kind of give you a dumb pipe and kind of wish you luck, right? So if you think about that, if you're a retailer, right, you've got you're a company that's opening up, hundreds of stores, they're not really evaluating FWA as a backup anymore. They're evaluating it as a primary for new locations, because those take about 6 to 8 weeks for fiber, as opposed to 6 to 8 hours for FWA. So when you're opening up 450 stores and each one has a week of delay, cost to you for your revenue, the math kind of does itself if you think about it. So it's not just about backup anymore. It really is. And you'll see, I did a post this weekend, Rob, you read it, around T-Mobile, right? T-Mobile's adding, $15 million in Q1 just in fixed wireless access. AT&T announced today, I believe it was 225,000 lines in Q1 that they were adding as well in fixed wireless access. So even the MNOs are moving further away from fiber and SD-WAN and moving into fixed wireless access, specifically due to the timing, as well as the ability to get to revenue faster. Couple on that, again, what Merge Wi-Fi could do in their environment, with the switching, the automatic switching, you're not just tied to one carrier anymore, right? You really have the freedom of where policies are going in the next generation. We won't get into SGP32 here, but if you want to geek out, as Eric said earlier, I'll call it sassy. I won't say sexy, right? But if you want to geek out a little bit, go read SGP.32 and where that's going and where the industry is headed, and you'll see where Merge Wi-Fi has already been there for the last year or two, right? And adding security to that now, it's just, again, I hate to use the word game changer over and over, but it really is a game changer in the business.
Yeah, no, the strategic partnership with you and Merge Wi-Fi has really closed a lot of gaps and made this very simple to deploy. And I'm happy that was recently added to your portfolio.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I know, I believe a couple of the guys from Merge Wi-Fi are on here today. We spent last week with them in Fort Lauderdale at the IoT Expo. And I can't tell you the amount of questions and meetings we had from people just going, wait, what? What? You can do what?
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty interesting. So
Yeah, the
anyway,
customer
I
experience
digress.
is a lot different than a lot of our customers have experienced. In fact, we've had issues with resellers that will tell a client that they can deliver cable to all sites. Customer signs, realizes later on that they can't get to all the sites, and then they're shopping for new services at the fallout sites.
Right.
And that cost now is no longer $90. Now it's $1,000.
Right. Don't forget about the expedite fees, right?
And that's a very painful point. So if you look at the Aeris solution, you get not only, cost benefits, operational uh, efficiencies, but also just the customer experience when working within the platform, managing your devices, and implementing. It's a night and day experience versus what normally happens with some of the network providers out there.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to talk a little bit about cost and speed benefits. So, what measurable cost savings and deployment efficiencies can customers expect when switching from traditional wired installs to Aeris FWA?
Great question, right? I mean, let's talk about time, right? So think about anybody on the call who's done a fiber install for a new retail location, right? It could be anywhere between what 3 to 10K, depending upon construction, permits, trenching. We kind of just covered off on that, right? Timeline, you've got what 6 to 8 weeks average, sometimes 12. If we go back, Rob, to our old telco days, right? Waiting on a FOC date can be horrendous, especially if you're a CLEC as opposed to an ILEC, right? I think the FOC date's in 12 weeks. It might be 16.
I've had fiber take 6 months, by the way.
Sometimes, right? Cable's a little bit faster, right? It's still like 2 to 4 weeks, right? And comes with a best effort SLA. That means nothing when you're down, right? FWA with our platform, hardware shows up, team plugs it in, you're online, right? Total deployment time measured in hours, not necessarily in weeks, right? And the install cost is basically the hardware and a monthly subscription. So there's no construction crew, no permits, no trenching, no negotiations. So if you think about it a little bit, right? If we do the math and we're opening up, a new retail location with 200 locations, right?
Mm-hmm.
If each location gets online within 6 weeks sooner with FWA, and that location is generating about $5,000 a day in revenue, right? That's $210,000 in recovered revenue per location. Multiply that by 200 stores, you're talking about $42 million in accelerated revenue. The FWA subscription cost is a rounding error against that. And it is much lower than your typical SD-WAN cost or your typical, MPLS cost, right? And the weird thing beyond that is the fact that, cable gives you a rate for 1 year. Then the price typically goes up, right? I have cable at my house, right? You do too, right? I got the AT&T 2 gig price, which I thought was great because it was $156, right? Not understanding that my Mac only allows 1 gig. So for that first year, I paid for 2 gigs and only got 1 gig anyway. But now that price is over $200, right? And they ripped up my street to do it, right? With FWA, you get a predictable monthly cost, right? It covers your whole footprint. Your CFO doesn't actually have to figure out, do I have to forecast connectivity costs without surprises? It is a flat rate. It's set across the board. So, if you think about it, SLAs, time to install, et cetera, it's kind of caught up to where it wasn't 3 or 4 years ago.
If you've got 30 seconds for an example, there's a company based out of Minneapolis. They use a Target is their symbol. They have 1,850 stores. They actually had N-by-4 Ts in their building. They had VSAT for their secondary, and they were using cellular for their tertiary. Basically, they got rid of VSAT. They got rid of their T1s. They're actually running 1,850 stores on an LTE fixed wireless access, 75 registers. You got the food, you got Starbucks, you got an iDeal, whatever. And they're saving thousands upon thousands per location per month in that cost, because fixed wireless access had finally caught up to where people were typically used to T1s and or MPLS, or fixed or dedicated internet access. But yes, the wireline people were a little irritated that I did that, but they're just rocking and rolling and loving it all day long. It's now become mainstay and usable for about 95% of the business that are out there. I'm sorry.
No,
No,
Yeah,
that's
no,
perfect.
we
There.
worked in the past, we worked with a large firm in dentistry, and they had several hundred sites. I want to say it was 600 sites. And the Lexus are not great at timelines. They miss every single deadline for every single store. And the end result was there was empty dental offices that were sitting for weeks waiting for this circuit to be installed. And I wish we had an Aeris solution back then. We didn't, but we've come a long way, and the product is amazing in terms of the timeline and deployment schedules that you can deliver. You mentioned service level guarantee, SLA, Robert.
Yeah.
Real quick, Olson.
Yep.
We have a question from Craig. I wanted to stop for a
Go ahead
second
and
before we
grab
get
it.
too far away. Craig, do you want to come off mute and maybe expand on your question a little bit? You asked about a DPI solution right now that's being implemented into another AP platform. Can you get into a little bit of specifics of what you're looking for and hoping to accomplish? Maybe we don't have Craig. Well, we could take it and send it out as an answer in the email there and kind of guess at the total thing. It looked like you just looked to know what the similarity was to a DPI solution that Aeris has right now that they implemented in their API platform. I'm not sure if he's looking for a deep packet inspection from us as well, or to come married up with that.
So DPI is deep packet inspection, right? And Eric, I'm going to take first shot of this. You can take second shot, right? So I think it's a great question. We can answer it here for anybody else who might have it on the call. When we're looking at the packet flow information on Aeris, and it goes through our APF, our application packet function, we're actually looking at the headers and footers primarily. We're not looking at the inside packet layer. We're not opening up the envelope and seeing what's going on. And that's key for things like PCI compliance, right? High tech compliance, right? You want to be able to look at the packet and the header and footer information on that flow-based analysis rather than going into DPI. So I think as we get further down the stack, and we're looking at layer 1 through 4, right? So layer 1 through 4 today is basically network layer analytics, right? Network layer security. As you get to 5, 6, and 7, and you're going up into that enterprise policy, that's the ability to have that DPI level or CASB level, if you would, that you need for a larger enterprise environment for your branch offices, et cetera. Now, there are a couple ways to do that, right? One, and this is something we're exploring later this week as well, and our friends at Merge Wi-Fi have that ability to go 5, 6, and 7. With their ability to go 5, 6, and 7, you can have an extended view into the packet level. You could also look at a SASE provider that could be mirroring this down and then extending with 5G SASE. Read the news on Thursday, right? Follow up on Thursday, put it in your calendar, read the news Thursday. You'll see a press release come out from Aeris on that, where we will go into deeper details on where DPI, and we're taking DPI in Q2, Q3 this year. Eric, you want to expand on that, or did I give enough of a teaser for people to look at the news?
I think you did quite well, sir.
Perfect. Okay. So, Rob, you had a question. Does that satisfy? Did Craig come back online, or no? All right. Fantastic. Rob, you had a question on SLAs.
Yeah, you mentioned SLAs. Can you walk us through Aeris's SLA commitments for fixed wireless access, including uptime guarantees, performance metrics, and how these SLAs compare to traditional wired broadband solutions? By the way, I don't think anybody else in the mobility IoT space is offering an SLA. Am I incorrect?
No, you're very correct, especially in a multi-environment. I think the screen speaks for itself, right? You can see right up there on the top line, right? 99.99%, right? This is where cable cable and FWA kind of have the biggest gap, right? And sometimes on paper, it's not in favor of FWA, right? Until you kind of dig what SLA means, right? So cable providers love to quote, got up to 1 gig based, it's there, right? But their SLAs are on best effort, right? So there's no penalty if they deliver 100 meg instead of 1 gig. There's no guaranteed uptime. And if your cable goes down on a Saturday, which mine has, you might not get a truck roll until Monday, right? And then you got a whole house full of people, right, that are trying to watch, Real Housewives of whatever is on that weekend, at least in my house, right? And then you're trying to stream that on a 5G on your phone, right? So SLAs are important, and it's always been a part of our culture, right? So it doesn't matter if it's FWA or if it's a 1 gig or a 5 meg solution, right? So our SLAs are 99.9% uptime, right? So measurable, contractual, and there's consequences if we miss it. Most importantly, we're multi-carrier. So our uptime isn't dependent on a single piece or infrastructure. Cable takes you down, we switch, right? We kind of covered that a little bit earlier, right? That's the beautiful part about also the partnership with Merge Wi-Fi is that ability to automatically switch. So it's not just going, I got to wait till Monday, right? And to your question a little bit or no?
Yeah, no, I think it's very thorough. There is a question that came up in the chat from the last question, which asked, how can you predict how much usage you will use if you were still on fiber, coax, or something else? Is there any way to predict usage so you're getting on the right plans with Aeris, or are plans not necessary? How does that work?
The beautiful part is your ability to scale. So I won't talk about predicting, Eric. I'll throw that over to you, right? But typically you're able to monitor your usage based on it. So if you come in and you're looking at a gig, right? You think that you need a gig, and then we see when you're trending that you're actually going to be using 5 gig, right? We have that ability, Eric, to kind of help them measure and scale, as opposed to just going in and buying 5 gig and then finding out, after 6 months of paying for it, you're like, I actually only needed a gig. Darn, right? So kind of the engineering side, Eric, because you're tracking that usage rate, kind of help explain that benchmarking and usage rate aspect.
Yeah, I think no matter what you do, if you have 100 devices out in the field, you're going to have one at one end that's going to go ahead and use far more than they need. And at the other end, you're going to have ones that are not using anywhere near what they should. So trying to go ahead and figure that out. The run rate feature within Watchtower, and actually Airport for that matter, can actually answer that question in just about 90 days. We get to see what your run rate is, what your expectation is. And in some cases, we actually build in the overage in the contract. So until you actually physically put the wireless link in place, use it on a day-to-day, forget that it's there, just do your day in, day out. And after about 90 days, you're going to immediately be able to see, okay, well, it looks like we're busy here. We're not there. We don't need 5 gig. It looks like we need 3 gig. But that type of analytics in the tool is pretty much not comparable. And by the way, the Merge Wi-Fi solution, I've been in this business since the military all the way up to now as far as wireless go. And I have not been impressed or surprised by anything new like the Merge Wi-Fi box. It's just, and I have one over here and it's blinking, letting me know it's happy. But yeah, it's the run rate capability that actually lets you fine tune and right size your spend.
And Rick, oftentimes the cable providers have a section for data in the account management portion of it. I put for a couple of the main ones there where you can find that data, but typically you can see how much data has passed through that box over a given month.
Yeah, check the chat. Marcus left it there just a few minutes ago.
Good job, Marcus. Okay.
Yep, good job.
All right.
So let's talk a little bit about use cases. Aeris highlights diverse use cases across retail, healthcare, logistics, and more. What are the most impactful success stories where Aeris FWA delivered business transformation?
Yeah, so I think, retail and healthcare, where the industry is going. Again, anybody who has a need to cure their insomnia over the last couple of days, I put out some posts specifically around retail and healthcare. Feel free to read them. If you're still awake, take NoDoz, or not NoDoz, take Tylenol PM or something like that, right? So, but I'll talk about where we're seeing the most traction, right, and where we're not, right, and it's not theoretical, right? Retail is the biggest one. You know, we're targeting large enterprises this year with our partners, and actually on behalf of our partners, where we're seeing companies like Dollar General, right, 7-Eleven, they're Tractor Supply Company, right? Their choices in fiber versus FWA. It's FWA or don't open on time, right? So, it's not a technology decision; it's becoming a revenue decision. Right. So quick service restaurants is another one, right? They're right behind retail. Think about a drive-through operation. If the connectivity drops for even 10 minutes, you got cars backed up, orders not processing, right? Customers aren't coming back. So a multi-carrier FWA with automatic failover isn't a nice to have for a QSR. It's operationally required, right? We actually have a customer now that is operating separately their restaurant and their safe systems. Right, so they're utilizing FWA specifically around their safe systems, as opposed to for their historic store openings themselves. Now, what they're seeing is they're like, wait a minute, hang on a second, I can now migrate my stores from fiber over to FWA and have quicker launch times. So it's not just limited to the overarching store, but it's also to different aspects within the store. Another example of that would be vending machines that are inside stores now. You're seeing a lot of vending machines and vending retailers. Power Mart's one up in Illinois, right, where they're launching these kiosks, refrigerator units in stores, and the stores are no longer allowing them to utilize their Wi-Fi. So now they've got to have a cellular connection on their own in order to have a segmented offering away from the store itself, because the stores don't want to have the security risk of these retail vendors or these vending machine vendors that are inside their retail locations, right? Healthcare clinics is another one that's a great use case, right? Urgent care facilities, dental chains. We talked about dental chains a few minutes ago, right? Specialty clinics, suburban rural areas, right? They need high tech and HIPAA compliant connectivity. They need it fast, right? FWA with Watchtower, IoT Watchtower, gives them that speed and the security and the compliance for the audit trail, right? So it goes across the board, right? And we're not even going to get into POTS replacement, right? Think about where POTS replacement is going right now, right? Copper phone networks are being decommissioned, $17 billion over the next 2 years, right? Every business with an alarm system, elevator, phones, fax machines that go over copper, they have to replace it because it's sunsetting, it's end of life, right? Okay. FWA handles that, right, overall, and then you add in the security layer of IoT Watchtower, and it makes sure that those connections are secure and visible. Right. So it's not limited to 1 or 2 or 3 use cases, right? We can talk about construction sites, right? We had a partner come to us that's opening up construction sites, and they can't get fiber out to those locations, and they can't get them out there for a long time, but they've got to be up and running today. So it really covers the gamut from everything from retail to healthcare to manufacturing to construction. If it requires my son calling me right now, who's the only person that doesn't go on mute. Anybody know what that is? The Office. There we go. I absolutely hate that show, but it's his favorite. So if you think about it, anything that's out there that requires a SIM card or that requires the ability to upload fast, it's a use case for you. And we're happy to share use cases all day long where we've deployed money we've saved across the board, et cetera. So hopefully that answers your question, Rob.
Yeah, no, great answer. In fact, we have another question in chat. Mr. Pitch would like to know if the carriers allow streaming applications on your service.
Yes, short answer.
And you, of course, you can block those as well, as we've learned a few minutes ago.
We talked about that a few minutes ago, right, with Eric, right? If you want to block Netflix, you're all about it, right? Just don't block my Hulu account. I'm good.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about future-proofing connectivity. With the transition from LTE to 5G and beyond, how is Aeris positioning its FWA product to help enterprise customers future-proof their connectivity investments?
Yeah, great question, right? This is where having 100 million devices on the platform matters, right? I know you mentioned earlier the 90 million, but if you guys will see over the last couple of months, we just passed 100 million devices. We're only second behind Cisco globally as far as the number of devices deployed. And the vehicles have actually increased as well. We have over 40 million vehicles on the road today. So we've managed technology transitions before, right? We've moved customers from 2G to 3G, 3G to LTE, and now LTE to 5G, right? Our eSIM technology is the key, right? If you think about it, when 5G coverage expands in a market, we can shift a device to a 5G carrier profile without touching the hardware. So there's no truck roll, no SIM swap. It's over-the-air provisioning. And kind of what that means for an enterprise buying FWA today is you're not betting on one generation of technology. You're buying into a platform that will, ride the technology curve with you. So if you're starting on LTE today and 5G isn't available in that market, you can automatically move to 5G when it arrives, and eventually, to where it goes next, whether it's 6G, 7G, or 25G, right? Because the intelligence is kind of in the platform. It's not on the radio network, if you will.
You're not changing SIMs around trying to accommodate the new platform. It's all built into the system. Again,
and we're 100%. And we're investing heavily in the security layer of that, right? Because 5G enables more devices, more bandwidth, the attack surface gets bigger. I cannot stress enough how we are entering into a world of the unknown device is going to be your biggest threat vector out there, right? We're building this at scale, more devices, more connections, same zero trust visibility and policies, right? So if you think about that, and anybody who's followed, the internet over the last week and a half, you've seen OpenClaw, right, which started off as CloudBot and then became MoltenBot, and now it's OpenClaw, and now by today it's actually owned by OpenAI, right? Just the chaos that created when Peter changed the name from CloudBot to MoltenBot, and then from MoltenBot to OpenClaw, it exposed 93% of the users that were using that. It exposed all their API information, their Gmail information, everything into those managed devices, but more importantly, into those unmanaged devices. Think about how many Mac Minis were hacked unless you set it up properly. Thankfully, I'm one of those people that was not hacked because I was able to set it up. I was able to segment it, right? So think about where the industry is going as we become more and more kind of distant connected, is what I'll call it, with these IoT devices. Your attack surface is just going to continue to get bigger, right? And as you increase the technology with line of sight, et cetera, your attack vectors are going to continuously get more complex. So you want that security not to be bolted on. You don't want that connectivity to be out there in the native. You want it directly within the network itself. You want it to sit at that network layer 1 through layer 4, layer 1 through layer 7. So, future proofing is not just building something that adapts, it's building something that adapts before it arrives, right? So.
No, thank you. Great answer.
Sorry, I get a little geeky when it comes to security. You know that, Rob. So I could talk about that all day long.
It's great stuff, and it is a game changer, as you said repeatedly. I'll repeat it as well. It's a very unique service. We're excited to be one of your distributors. We love that. I want to thank our guests today, Charlie Todd, Eric Lidstrom, Marcus Schmidt, and of course Robert Holly. If you are interested in hearing more about Aeris, like to schedule an appointment, reach out to us at info@technologysource.com. That's info@technologysource.com. And we'll be sure to set up a short call to help walk you through whether or not Aeris would be a great fit for your business. One last thing, if you get a chance to mosey over to Spotify, Robert Holly's got a couple of country hit music songs out there that are blowing up, and I would definitely recommend a quick listen. So
I don't know if they're blowing up, but I'll take all the listeners I can get.
Well, hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you next